Hey, how's it going, guys? Aaron J. Holt here. So, it's official. After more than a 2-month break, I'm back, guys. And as I stated in my post back then, the reason that I was going on a break was because Donald Trump was sworn back into office. I was originally going to keep my break to just being a week long, but then one bad thing started happening after another in the Trump administration, and I just slipped into a depression. I do suffer from mental illness, and one of the mental illnesses that I have is known as intermittent explosive disorder, or what I like to call Hulk disease. So that what it is basically is that it takes barely nothing to set my anger off. You know, it could be something as simple as stubbing my toe, and all of a sudden my anger goes off like that, and I just can fly into a rage. Now, thankfully, I take medication daily for that, and I do see a therapist on a biweekly basis. But I also do suffer from depression, and unfortunately, just seeing everything that the Trump administration has done just within the first 2 months, it's like shameful. It doesn't even begin to describe it. You know, I don't even know how to describe it. And it became just impossible to work up the energy to, you know, start filming more videos and be, you know, happy and energetic for my videos, because it's like seeing everything that's going on. You know, it's like, how can I, you know, pretend to be, you know, energetic and, you know, cheerful and all that for my videos when you look at what's going on in the country, and it's like, how can I do that for my videos? It's like, what's the point? And I know I don't usually get political with my videos. Usually it's just contained to my TikToks that I usually just get political. And I usually have comments turned off on those, because Trump supporters usually just get in there and they just, you know, comment with the usual, you know, idiotic responses like, oh, Trump 2024, and like, you know, all that. So it's like, what's the point of even engaging with them? So it's like, yeah. But all the things that have happened now, it's like, how did we even get to this point? I don't understand. How could anyone in good conscience, how can anyone in good conscience have supported someone like that? You know? And it's taken a lot just to get the energy to just make this video. You know, you can already tell that I'm starting to lose a lot of energy. And I'll try to make, you know, videos for this week, and I think that'll be my plan going forward. Just, you know, seeing if I can, you know, make videos, you know, for the coming week. And if I'm unable to, I hope you guys understand that, because, you know, I can't help it, you know, in this current, you know, state that we're in. It's really hard to find, you know, the will to get up and make videos. It's difficult just to get out of bed in the morning, you know, and go to work, you know, is just a huge thing to do now. And to just, you know, laying in bed and being like, you know, why even get out of bed? You know, what's the point? You know, what good is it going to do anyone? So, and one of the most difficult things about this whole thing is it has really opened my eyes to who some of my family and who people who used to be my friends really are. Because in the last 2 months, I have unfriended so many people on Facebook because it's just opened my eyes to who people who I thought I knew who they were, but it turns out I really didn't, you know. So many friends and even a couple of family members, and it's astounding just how much they, you know, are willing to make excuses and just, you know, the term, I believe it's called shift the goalposts. I'm not good at these kinds of things, like these, like blogs and stuff. So, I'm not good at describing it, but it was totally infuriating. It was both leading up to the election, after the election, and then even in these 2 months, you know, since Trump got sworn back in. It astounds me how much they refuse to see. It's like, you know, no matter what I say, what I do, even how much evidence I present to them, you know, it's like they refuse to believe. Like they refuse to, you know, admit that, oh, Trump is actually bad and, you know, he's not actually, you know, in the White House to make things better. He's just in there for himself. And it makes you wonder, like, you know, there's pretty much nothing that you can do to convince people, you know. Like I presented, like, you know, actual video clips of him to my family and friends. Like, you know, thankfully not everyone in my family is MAGA, but unfortunately some of them are. And, you know, I've presented, you know, video clips to the family members and my friends, and I've presented, you know, video clips of like actual footage of him at rallies where, like, you know, that one infamous clip where he actually says, you know, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care about you, you know. And it's like, what more proof do you need? He just said it to your face, you know. He doesn't care about you. Once he gets your vote, he'll just toss you aside like last year's supermodel, you know. And then just everything that has happened ever since Trump got back in office, like all of the executive orders, putting all of these unqualified people in cabinet positions, tanking the economy, you know, crap, there's just so many things that he's done. Has been done so fast. It's like hard to keep up with everything that has happened. And I think that's, you know, done on purpose to just overload us with so many bad things. It's like we can't keep up with them. It's like, you know, we'd probably have to write them down just to keep track. And, you know, like I said, that's probably, you know, that's probably part of his plan to just overload us with so much that we can't keep up. But, you know, putting unqualified people in cabinet positions, you know, like, you know, that, what's her name? Linda McMahon, or yeah, the wife of the founder of the WWE, to be the head of the Department of Education. And then he wants her to dismantle the Department of Education. And it's like, okay, well, that's, you know how many people that's going to affect? That's going to affect people in rural areas. That's going to affect low income people, people with disabilities, you know. Basically, it's going to affect everyone except, you know, rich people, you know, rich kids. And then, of course, there's Elon Musk and his Doge company, you know, and they're making excuses saying, you know, oh, they're, you know, trying to save, you know, all this money and stuff, And even when I pointed out that, they removed a bunch of their achievements from their website because it was found that a lot of those numbers had been fudged, even then, family and friends made up excuses for that too. And there's just no getting through to some people, And like I said, there's some people that, you thought were friends and you never really truly know them until, later on. And I'll give you one good example, and I won't name any names to, keep everyone's, to keep everything private and everything. But like one friend, obviously he's, a Trump supporter and all that. And, he made a post on Facebook where he said that, where he was basically saying, I believe this was right after, you remember when, like the whole Trump family and the Vance family attended that church sermon, and the bishop, Bishop Buddy, I think her name was, where she was just asking Trump to just, show mercy on, on the immigrants, on marginalized people, to just show mercy because they're scared of what lies ahead. These are uncertain times. They don't know what will happen. They are afraid for their futures. And, he's back in office and he has, a lot of power again. And, he should, as a leader, he has the ability to show mercy and, actually help them, and that is what, Jesus would do, Jesus would ask us, help out your neighbor, welcome the stranger, help out those in need, help out those who are less fortunate than you, And then obviously so many people were like, oh, she's being political and, just attacking the bishop. And it's like, first of all, she was not being political. She was giving the same message that Jesus would give. And it's like, since when did, actually spreading the word of Jesus, like, become so wrong to Christians? And, I was raised Christian and I still believe in it. And it's like, since when was it considered wrong to show empathy, to show kindness, to be loving to one another, to help people, to show humanity? And getting back to what I was starting with, one of my friends on Facebook, took Trump's side over the bishops. And what was surprising to me, in his Facebook post, and again, I won't say any names, I'll protect all privacy, but he basically said, if I remember correctly, I unfriended him since then, and I blocked him, but he was basically saying that people of the LGBTQIA plus community were the ones who are always playing the victim or something to that effect. And he also said something to the effect of where the bishop was totally wrong or something to that effect, if I can remember correctly. But he was, long story short, he was taking Trump's side over the bishops. And the most shocking thing about this was that he is the son of a pastor. And I thought, dude, you should know more than anyone else about, the teachings of Jesus. And I thought, really? And it goes back to what I was saying before. Is this who we are now? Is it really, since when is it wrong to show empathy to show kindness, to be compassionate, to be merciful, to be loving. And it's at that point where I came to the conclusion where I was like, I guess I really don't know people until, I guess, they show their true colors themselves, So yeah, I have unfriended and blocked several friends. I think at least 8, maybe 10 friends on Facebook. I haven't unfriended any family on Facebook, but I have muted them so I don't see them in my feed. Because it's like, I don't want to see any of your Trump crap in my feed. It's like, why would I want to see that? And there are some family members that I don't talk to, as much anymore. Because it's like I said again, no matter what I say, what I do, how much evidence I bring before them, it's like they always shift the goalpost. They always find a way to have like some sort of an excuse to, give Trump another chance. And it's like, no, we've given Trump more than enough chances, And so I'm just like, I'm done trying to convince you. It's like, I don't have to justify my views to you because it's like, at the end of the day, there's no convincing you and I'm not going to waste my time. So it's like, if you're ever going to truly see the truth, you're going to have to come around to it yourself. So, and the only way to do that, I guess, is to have it finally affect you, So it's like, it's like all these tariffs that are affecting the prices on everything, and prices are still going up, I guess it's just going to have to, prices are just going to have to skyrocket until you can't afford them anymore for you to finally, turn around and be like, okay, I have to admit that this is, really bad and I can't ignore it. Because yeah, ever since, Trump got sworn back in, it's just been one bad thing after another. And I get it. It's easy. I said easily, but it's easy to fall into despair. I slipped into a huge depression, and for a while it was just, I just focused on work and home. That's it. And I've also been trying to focus on losing weight, and I have, managed to lose a lot of weight. Not because of the stress of Trump, but because I'm trying to get in shape to audition for Disney Cruise Line, if that even becomes a thing this summer. We'll see, because who knows? We don't even know what will happen, in a week. That's how unpredictable things have become. But it's like, ever since Trump got sworn back in, like I said, there have been bad things happening pretty much all the time, with, plane crashes have been happening, there have been mass firings in the federal government, they've been wanting to come after Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and just so many things, and then so many bills that have been coming up in the states attacking rights of, other communities, like the LGBTQIA plus community, women's rights, where it focuses on reproductive rights, and just a whole bunch of stuff. And also with the mass deportations, that especially I can't. The mass deportations, especially, I don't even know how to describe my emotions for it, because just rounding all of those people up, saying that they're criminals without even giving them due process? No, that's unconstitutional. And then just putting them on planes, flying them down to concentration camps in El Salvador, and then openly defying a federal judge's order when the federal judge said, you need to stop, sending people to these concentration camps in El Salvador. All planes in the air need to turn around and head back to the United States, and all planes on the ground need to not take off. And their response was like, oh, we're not stopping. We don't care what some judge thinks, And it is shocking to me that no one in government is standing up and doing this. And well, when I say doing this, I mean, no one is standing up to this and doing something about it to, rein all of this in, because I can't do pretty much anything. I use this phrase all the time. I'm like an iPhone 5 at 5 p.m. I have no power. All I can do is vote, protest, write to my representative and senator, my Congress people. That's pretty much it. And I've done all those things. And yet, even some of those things are proving to be ineffective, because it's like their response is like, we hear you, we just don't care. And even now, like, some of those rights, like the right to protest, are being heavily challenged, where I'm sure you've seen like Trump's social media post where he was like, all illegal protests will be, I don't know what his exact social media post was, but he said something about all illegal protests will result in arrests or something to that effect. And I could obviously see through the bullcrap. He just means any protest he doesn't like, he'll have it shut down. And I'm sure you've all seen the news by now of that one student, I believe it was in Massachusetts, who was snatched up by those 6 plainclothes officers or ICE agents, whoever they were, who were wearing masks, and they didn't show any badges, they didn't show a warrant or anything, just snatched her right off the sidewalk into an unmarked car and drove off. And even though her lawyer said that, she was not to leave the state, she wound up in, a ICE detention center in Louisiana, and as far as I know so far, she's still there. But these are scary times, and I'm seriously worried, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, like, even in the next week, There's supposed to be a huge rally in D.C. on Saturday, April 5th. Obviously, since I live in Minnesota, I obviously can't make it there. I just want to say that everyone who's going to be protesting, please do so peacefully, do so non-violently. The last thing we need is to give Trump any excuse to escalate things even further, because things are already bad, and we don't want him to have any excuse to make things even worse. And just all of the other things that he's done, like, alienating us from all of our allies, especially with Canada, because Canada was our closest trading partner and our ally for who knows how long, and all of a sudden now, the new prime minister says, our trading relationship with America is effectively over, or something to that effect. And he's basically, like, isolated us from the entire world, from all our allies. And he's, like I said, he's done so many things. Like, it's hard to keep it all straight what he's done. And it's like you have to write it down. But it's like, why? Why would anyone want to, vote for this guy? Why? After seeing everything that he did during his first term, and especially after he botched COVID. Why? You knew what kind of monster he is. You knew he's a pathological liar. You knew he only cares about himself. You knew he's not gonna, follow through on his promises. You knew he was going to make things worse, and yet you still voted for him. I don't understand why. Honestly, I probably won't. I just don't get it. It reminds me of, I watched an episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and he was talking about some guy, what was it, in the Philippines? Yeah, it was like some leader in the Philippines, and the guy and his family just basically ripped off the entire country. So much so that the entire people rose up and basically drove them out, where the whole family just had to flee. But then they were able to essentially rewrite history, where they were able to pull the wool over everyone's eyes, and then just, a short time later, I don't know how long, but it was just a little ways down the road that, the dude's son was able to get, elected back in the same position that his dad was, so that the family was essentially back ruling the country again. And it's like, it's like I want to quote, Mr. Potato Head from the first Toy Story movie. Did you all take stupid pills this morning? Did you forget what, did you forget what they did to us? And now you want to let them back in again? So it's like, you knew what Trump, how horrible Trump was in his first term, and now you want to make him president again? On the day that Trump got sworn in, I posted that video that was titled, "I'm worried about our future." And I still mean everything that I said in that video, that I still believe in democracy. And though that we are slipping very, very close to losing it, I still believe it can be saved. That I believe that we can still save it, even though, it seems like it might be too late. And who knows, maybe it is. But I want to remind you guys that in Star Wars, the Galactic Republic had 1,000 years of peace before the Galactic Empire took over. And Emperor Palpatine said that, the Galactic Empire would last for at least 10,000 years. And what happened? It barely lasted 30 years. So I'm not saying that this is going to be easy to survive. Nothing in life ever is easy. I don't know where I'm going with my train of thought on this. I didn't have any script prepared for this video. I'm just going off the top of my head with everything that I say. I'm just saying whatever comes to mind. But what I am saying is we can get through this. We can survive. It will not be easy. It'll be probably the greatest test we ever face in our lives. Who knows? Like I said, I don't know even what the next week will bring. But we have to be vigilant, and we cannot lose hope. Hope is the only thing that's stronger than fear. And I'm reminded of that Disney Pixar movie, A Bug's Life. You remember that one scene where Hopper is telling all the grasshoppers, you let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 1,000 to 1, and if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. And that is true for us now too. The working class outnumbers, the corruption. We are the majority. We the people. And they are supposed to work for us. So, sorry, I don't know where I'm going with this. So, the way forward will not be easy, but we will get through it. I know I can't promise anything, but we will get through this, guys. Until then, let's just take this one day at a time, and we can only do what we can. So in the meantime, guys, I promise I will try to make more videos. I will try just focus on 1 week at a time. Trying to make videos for 1 week at a time. And I think that's pretty much all any of us can do. Take it one step at a time. Don't look at the mountain as a whole. Just focus on the next step in front of you. I think that's the best advice I can offer. Until I see you in the next video, you guys, stay safe, stay positive, and I hope you have a good day. I'll see you guys next time. Roll the outro.